When you start a new business, or really when you do anything new, there's always a surge of energy at the very beginning. And that is because your brain releases a chemical called dopamine that feels really good. It makes you excited. It makes you go, ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, shiny object. Oh, that's cool, right? That's how our brain works. And when you start a new business, or when you set a New Year's resolution, it's exactly the same thing. It's the idea of, I've got this new thing that I'm gonna do, and I got all this motivation and all this energy to start down the path. And then there's a hump. Then you hit a place where you're tested. And it's during that test that if you get through it, you get the result or you don't. It's January 21st for people who have New Year's resolutions, or it's when sales are flat if you've got a new business, or it's when you have to do something that you don't enjoy. So in this video, we're going to talk about sustaining momentum when you are starting a business, because that momentum and that motivation that you've got is going to carry you through those humps. Now, before I go into like the 3 practical things that you can do regularly, there is one piece of context that is too important not to say. And I feel like this goes without saying, except for the fact that I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, hundreds of them now running 7-figure businesses, and I see this across the board, and it's this. It's really hard to sustain momentum and to stay motivated when you're building a business that you don't like. It's just hard to do. So sometimes you mess up from the beginning and you build a business doing something that you didn't like, or you're with a partner that you ultimately don't like, and we try to fix it and we try to force it and we try to make it happen. But the reality is, if you don't like it, or you don't like him or her, there's really no fixing that. There's really nothing you can do about that. Entrepreneurship is hard. It's really hard. It might be the hardest job on the planet besides being a single parent. It will test your will, your bank account, your mindset constantly. It will demand more of you than you can ever imagine. So if you don't like what you're doing, no amount of motivation or getting hyped up fixes that. So if you're building a business that you like and you're doing the things in the business that you like, it's going to be a lot easier to stay motivated. But let me give you a few things that you can do. There are really 3 very practical things that if you add in will naturally increase your motivation and help you sustain momentum through the times that are really hard in business. So the first one that I want to give you is to focus on the people. Here's what I mean by that. Especially internet entrepreneurs, especially in our little community that is about getting an audience and getting traffic and making money on the internet and selling products. Since everything is going online and we sit behind computers, it is really easy to get obsessed with numbers and to get obsessed with digital status and to get obsessed with comments. And we forget that behind every purchase of every product, there is a person. Here's the time that this really showed up for me. I do an event about once a year called the Capitalism Conference, and hundreds of people from all over the world fly in for our community to get together at the Capitalism Conference. And we bring in keynote speakers, and it's an amazing, amazing experience where people create new businesses, get new ideas, up-level their mindset. Anyway, the first time we did it, and someone came up to me and said, I came from Germany because I've been following you on the internet for 3 years and I now run a 7-figure company. There's a very different experience of that behind seeing a podcast download or a YouTube view. There's something very fundamentally different about that. So Oftentimes we try to think of the best hook. We try to think of the next best product. We try to think about what's gonna work. And the secret to getting everything that you want is to focus on other people. In fact, there's really good research to suggest that depression is caused by inward focus, and that it's really hard to be depressed when you have outward focus, when you're focusing on other people. So that's another just interesting byproduct of being focused on people, because it's really hard to stay motivated when you're depressed. And entrepreneurship is a lonely, long, burdensome journey. And the rate of depression in entrepreneurs is about double what it is in the standard population, which is already kind of high. So the fact that we're shouldering it ourselves, going on our own path, if you're not focused on the people behind the product, behind the process, behind the purchase, it gets even lonelier and it becomes about numbers and data. And all of that is great if it's a reflection of what people are doing. So take the time to be plugged into the people who are giving you attention and giving you money, or the people that you want to serve, the people that might give you money. If you are thinking about it from an extraction perspective of I need to get money out of this, rather than creating the pile and giving, you're gonna be lonely, depressed, and broke. The way you get rich, the way you sustain momentum, is by operating from a place of I've got something, whether it could be a product that means something in someone else's life, and being in a position of giving it, because it assumes to your brain that you have something to give, that you're abundant. And when you are connected to the people who are responding to that message or that product or whatever it is that you're putting out on the internet, it makes motivation and momentum much, much easier. Quick thing you can do right now on whatever social media page you communicate with your audience, run some sort of a poll, survey, get feedback from your people on what they want or what you are doing that is resonating with them. Get that feedback. Do things to get engagement with your customers. It will make you more money, but most importantly, it will help you stay motivated and get you the momentum to carry you through the hard times. So that is number one, the people behind the product and the process. Number two, how do I phrase this? Plug into a network. I think, maybe I'm just speaking from my own experience here, but I think every entrepreneur is a lonely soul. It's very lonely to strap an entire vision on your back and run with it. And if you are not supported by peers, mentors, and people running alongside you, there's nobody you can relate to, right? It's really hard to go to an employee and say, I'm worried about making payroll this month. It's really hard to go to a customer and say, I'm stressed about this product. Nobody cares. Like, the outside world doesn't care about your problems. As an entrepreneur, your problems are also other people's problems because you're the one creating in the world. So the stress that we carry is many times magnified when you're lonely. This is actually brain science, right? Our cortisol, our stress spikes when we're on our own, when we're alone, when we're lonely. It goes down when we feel connected, when we're touched, when we feel supported. These are all things that quiet that down. So on a physiological level, being connected with mentors and people and peers changes your body, but it also changes your business. And it changes your business because every opportunity that you've ever gotten came from another person. Every dollar that somebody else gave you came from another person. So the more plugged in and the more networked you are, the more money you will make and the happier you will be. Now, I used to really struggle with this. This was really, really hard for me for a long time. And I actually thought for some time that maybe something was wrong with me. Maybe I'm just meant to be alone and not plugged in and not have the access and the resources that I want. But finally, one day I decided I was going to take responsibility for this and stop waiting for other people to plug me in. And I just started hosting gatherings for entrepreneurs in my homes. I started hosting conferences where I invited the entrepreneurs that I wanted to spend time with to speak on my stage, and the community that I wanted to serve, I invited to buy tickets. I just decided that I would become the person that created the network, that created the environment, that created the connection with other people, so that I was always plugged in, and anyone who was in our ecosystem, anyone who was in one of our masterminds or was in one of our programs, got access to the same type of connections and opportunities that would exist on the network that we had built. So when you stop thinking about it and just start building the system through which other people want to be plugged in with you, that is a way that you're always in control of that network. And then, of course, to get started, I joined masterminds. I would recommend that you join masterminds. I plugged into online communities. I would suggest that you plug into online communities and start to build that list of people that you can count on as you are going through this very long journey of entrepreneurship together. So plug into a network. Great case study of this. So one of my most successful projects was a nutrition company called Sheer Strength. And that company, I came up with a lot of the ideas behind that business. I came up with a lot of the network for that business. I created a lot of those opportunities, but none of them would have actually happened had it not been for my partner, Matt. None of it. And it probably also wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for me. When Matt and I came together, there was rocket fuel. Because he had a skill set, I had a skill set, and we brought them together. We are made to connect with one another. We are made to rely on one another. And Matt and we enjoy hanging out, but we're very different. So we complement one another. That's how it's supposed to be. If you and your partner are exactly the same, one of you is irrelevant and unnecessary. So that I made way more money being connected to Matt than me trying to figure it out all on my own. Your relationships are your power. Now let's talk about where your power can get lost and what to do about it. And it leads us to number 3. The biggest thing that saps people of their motivation, their momentum, and their power is when they compare themselves. This is a double-edged sword. Our brains know how to do one thing, and it's compare. What's hot? Whatever your brain thinks is cold, compare those two. That's how it evaluates it. What's beautiful? Whatever your brain, compares to the opposite. What is fit? Our brains work on momentum. They work on trajectories. So that's made in comparison. Here's where I was, here's where I am. That's either improvement or not. That's how your brain knows how to evaluate things. But we live in this world of Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and YouTube, and we're always comparing ourselves to what is going on with other people, or what we think is going on with other people. So, for example, in my content, on my podcast and my videos, I try to be very, very open and transparent about the fact that it ain't all roses. Sometimes entrepreneurship freaking sucks. Sometimes this game is really hard. So yes, I like to talk about and reminisce about the time that I sold a company for more than $10 million. I like to talk about the other companies that I have bought and sold. I like to talk about the results that I'm getting. I like to talk about the audience growing. And it ain't all great days. And I tell you this because I try to be very transparent about this, because I like to create that space for the people who follow me, knowing that if they're comparing themselves to me, there's lots of things that we can compare it to, right? So it's not just, when you're comparing yourself just to the results of someone else, you're making an unfair comparison. But even more important than the disempowering feeling you get when you compare yourself to what you think other people are doing, the other side of this is that if you see someone else as better than you or doing more than you, then you end up reverse engineering your life to be like theirs. A much better strategy, if you're building a business that you like, is to compare your results of where they were yesterday to where they are today and tomorrow. So for example, if you're selling a product, rather than look at what someone else is doing and killing it, look at what your sales are today and what you can do tomorrow or this week or today in order to move the needle this much. That's momentum and motivation. Because otherwise we mentally masturbate over the idea of here's where our product is and this is what this guy or girl is doing, so I'm gonna figure all of that out and bring those systems into this. It doesn't work like that. That is bringing someone else's past into your present. And sometimes that can be helpful as a model, or it can be a good thinking mechanism for you to be able to make decisions. But what's going to motivate you and keep you growing towards the result that you want is to look at where you are and to look at where you want to go, not what anybody else is doing. The best advice I ever received was from the grandfather of a woman I was seeing at the time. We called him Pop. And Pop was old, rich, and happy, which is a good type of person that you want to model. And Pop said, I said to Pop, we were lying on the beach in Florida, and I said, Pop, what's the secret to life? And he said, work hard and don't worry about the other guy. Let him worry about his stuff. You worry about yours. That is something to live your life on. Work hard and don't compare yourself to other people. You don't know what's going on in their life, in their bedroom, in their pocketbook. You don't know what they're lying about. You only know what's real for you. Your comparison comes down to you and your results, not other people's results. Now, that leads me into one really nice way to wrap this thing up. And the fact of the matter is that you are not always going to feel motivated and like you're moving forward. There's gonna be days when it just doesn't feel good. And that's why if I'm gonna add a bonus into this, I'm gonna say, follow a routine or a system, or follow a plan, follow a structure, follow a format for you to allocate your time, attention, and resources. So I do this with a daily practice called the Tribe 5. It's how I allocate my time and attention, just so I can say, did I follow my diet? Yes or no? Did I get the one thing I was supposed to get done today? Yes or no? And if not, no judgment. I just score myself. And I've done a whole piece of content on my podcast at capitalism.com or in other videos that you can find when you subscribe to the channel. But if you're following a system through which to get things done, it's really hard to be unmotivated for very long because we're motivated by growth and progress. Motivation drains when we don't feel like there's movement. And so it's our job to keep the movement going by focusing on what people want and giving it to them, getting connected to our customers and to a network, and by focusing on what we are doing and how we are growing, not what other people are doing. Forgiving, punting the temptation to compare ourselves to other people. And we can do that on a day-by-day basis when we're following a predictable path for our own lives and how we structure our day. Would love to hear your thoughts on this video. Let me know in the comments. If you want more like this, we talk about money, success, mindset, investing, cash flow, business. When you subscribe to the channel, we have well, a lot of really good stuff here and at capitalism.com. You can also find me wherever you listen to podcasts. We do exclusive content on the podcast that we don't release in video form. So you can just search my name or capitalism.com wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments.